We have an interesting report here from Politico to share with you. They explain Donald Trump is signaling that he wants to appoint his campaign finance chairman, Stephen Mnuchin, as Treasury Secretary, according to a person close to the campaign. Trump's preference for the Goldman Sachs alumnus is the latest evidence that the GOP presidential nominee would be inclined to hire officials with experience in the business world should he win next week's election, despite the anti-establishment tone that has dominated the campaign. Here we go. So I've maintained from early on that Donald Trump, the possibilities with Donald Trump are, it's one of two things. Either if/when he's elected, he gets in there and he becomes the most ultimate insider establishment president ever. I mean, that's a huge possibility. Or the wild card authoritarian strongman streak in him overrides his want to fit in with actually rich people. And he ends up, doing more of the things where he acts like a dictator. And his impulses kind of rule the day. Those are the two options that I see with him. When I read a story like this, it leads me to lean more in the direction of, oh, he's going to get in there and he's going to be just as big of a bitch to the people around him as George W. Bush was. With Dick Cheney, for example, Cheney famously was in charge of picking who George Bush's VP would be. He was supposed to give Bush the options and say, hey, which one do you think it is? And then Cheney would be in the room with George W. Bush at the end of it and say, I got an idea. How about me? And Bush would be like, that sounds great, Dick. You're not going to work me like a puppet. I'm sure that's the case. All right, you're hired. So, and Bush was just, fucking little puppet boy being controlled because he's an idiot. Could be the same with Donald Trump. We learned already that this is kind of how he picked his VP too. The whole story with Paul Manafort, who was his campaign manager at the time, and Trump wanted to pick Chris Christie. His heart was set on Chris Christie. But Manafort said, hey, look, man, the plane, it broke down. They're working on it, so we're here in Indiana. Might as well have a dinner with Pence and see what happens. And then he made them have the dinner together, and then Trump eventually picked Pence. So he manipulated, because he's not that bright. So that could be the case here. Now, some people would argue, well, that could be better than the authoritarian strongman. I don't know. They're both really disastrous, because look at the people who Trump wants to surround himself with. We've already covered the story of neocon John Bolton, who may be the single neocon who is more bloodthirsty and dumber than Dick Cheney. John Bolton is a madman. He's never met a war he didn't love. All he does is lust for more war. This is the guy who Trump's like, I want him to be in charge of my foreign policy. What? You spent half the campaign, not the full thing, because the other half you were being hawkish, but half the campaign you said, maybe we shouldn't get involved in all these wars and we should rebuild our infrastructure. Again, the other half of the time you said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them, talking about ISIS, and you would intervene other places. But that's the thing is, so he would get power and he's like, okay, I'll just turn it over to John Bolton and let him do whatever he wants. And oh my God, now we're in 13 wars instead of just 7. So that would be a disaster. But now we know so you could have argued, previously to this, well, okay, whatever, Kyle. Even if he acts super establishment, it'll be just on foreign policy. But he's so strong anti-TPP in his rhetoric and, somewhat populist that there's no way that when it comes to the economy, he's going to be a massive sellout. He wants to make a person who was big at Goldman Sachs to be in charge of economic decisions. Come on, man. That's Hillary Clinton. That's why everybody hates Hillary Clinton. Like, ultimate establishment insider. She went and gave a speech. What was it? She got paid over $600,000 to talk to Goldman Sachs. Why do you think she's doing that? Oh, she's doing that because they want to hear her take on birth control. My ass cheeks. She's doing that because she's an ultimate establishment insider, and this way, when she gets in power, Goldman Sachs give him a call. She's going to answer. What can I do for you? That's the way it works. That's the way politics works. Here you have Donald Trump cuddling up to Goldman Sachs as he does this populist rhetoric. Don't buy it, man. Don't buy it. He's just as corrupt as the other politicians. We've told the story before. He ribbed Jeb Bush for a specific donor, Woody Johnson, billionaire. The head of Johnson & Johnson, the owner of Johnson & Johnson. Come to find out, he said to Jeb, hey, you a puppet to your donors. That's what I think you are. and Woody Johnson is your puppet master. Guess who ended up donating to Donald Trump later on? Woody Johnson. When he got the nomination, Woody Johnson, and he came and was the head of his fundraising for him. So he's a massive hypocrite. Massive hypocrite. And it looks like he's going to be an ultimate establishment insider as well, because he wants Goldman Sachs to run the fucking economy. Well, we know what they're going to do, because they're a business where their entire model is based on fraud, just like Bernie Sanders said. This is what they did during the subprime mortgage crisis. Hey, we're going to sell you this package of toxic subprime mortgages and tell you you're going to make a lot of money. This is what they'd say to their clients. Then they turn around and bet against it, as a bet for that package to fail, and they'd make money both ways. I just sold this thing to you saying it was good, even though I know it's not, and I'm going to make money betting on that thing to fail. Fraud, and they got away with it. Why? They're connected. Appears like they're connected not only to the Democrats, but also to the Republicans, and Mr. Anti-Establishment Donald Trump is full of shit.